For all of you out there who are wondering where my latest alt-right roasting video is, well, you have it. So let's get right to it. Richard Spencer finds himself back in the news once again. I know I'm a bit late on this because this happened over a week ago. There was a leaked audio of Richard Spencer doing what he does best, which is slandering individuals who don't fit into his Anglo-Saxon ethno-nationalist world and country that he envisions for the United States. And to be fair, he was roasting. He was cooking. He was cooking! For real! And in another reality, he could have been a good roaster. He could have been in the roast arena with the way he slandered and ranted and raged and went all mode for against the groups of people that we're all supposed to fear in this world. Now, the story behind this specifically was a beef between him and Milo Yiannopoulos, in which the latter leaked out an audio of the former individual going on an anti-Jewish and anti-black, I guess you can say, profanity-laden rant, which I will put the link in the description, and it's rather funny to say the very least, but that's not even the surprising thing about it. We all know what Richard Spencer is. He is the current face of the alt-right, but by the end of this video, you all, if you really do your research, can probably guess how he got to this position, which is what we're going to really talk about. Is Richard Spencer as alt-right as he claims to be? Well, for starters, yes, we have him doing all sorts of salutes and stating Heil Trump and all this other kind of stuff, attending all these rallies, having these He-Man, BBC, and UFC hater clubs. That's on the surface. It's all good in the hood, G. Okay. However, for all of you out there who've really been paying attention to this character, there have been a couple of incidents in which he really shows his ass. At the very least, and at the very most, I'll let you see how much of an alt-righter he really is. Our first proof of evidence to the table is his life, his former life, as a matter of fact, before he really became involved in the alt-right movement. Now, Richard Spencer has been in politics ever since he was in college, I would say. Even to the point in which he was a volunteer for the Ron Paul presidential campaign in 2007, where he actually ended up dating another staff member on that campaign. The individual turned out to be an Asian lady. As stated in this Mother Jones article, I begin in the middle of the story where it states, but Spencer's evolution into a hardcore ethno-nationalist was perhaps not as seamless as he makes it seem. In late 2007, he dated a woman who was Asian American. The two met while she was working for Ron Paul's presidential campaign. I am not the only Asian girl he has dated, says Spencer's ex, who spoke to me on the condition that her name not be disclosed. She said she initially been turned off by his talk of race-based behavior differences, but she eventually softened to the idea. They dated for 4 months, including a trip she took with him to Texas to attend his high school reunion. She said she eventually broke up with him, but not because he was too politically radical. We all have inconsistencies. Of course, a white worshipping Asian woman says this. She said, especially with love, how he can control her heart, blah, 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 blah. I asked Spencer about his Asian ex as he was digging into a bowl of Thai noodles at an eclectic restaurant in the quaint downtown of Whitefish. He seemed shocked that I brought it up and peppered me about how I had found out. I would rather you didn't write about that, he said, adding later, you're probably going to nail me with this. I think some people in the movement will probably find that terrible. He confirmed that she was not the only Asian woman he had been with, but he said the relationship predated his evolution into a white nationalist, which is funny because, according to the ex-girlfriend stated earlier, he had already had these thoughts while dating her. Though Spencer now opposes interracial relationships, white nationalists have long looked east for inspiration. There is something about Asian girls, Spencer said. They are cute, they are smart, they have a kind thing going on. If I am looking at my own life objectively, it really doesn't surprise me that much. Now, that's evidence number one, which, okay, a lot of you will say, well, what's the surprise? A lot of these alt-right guys end up going after self-hating Asian females. And you be true. And channels like this take pride in exposing that. I often reference that point in passing, but in this point, I wanted to emphasize this here as a way to possibly question the alt-right stance of Richard Spencer. But if a lot of you aren't convinced that he isn't as alt-right as he may claim, let's go to evidence number 2. In the Andy Worski video named Richard Spencer Sticks and Sargon Have a Chat, Andy and JF Moderate, which is streamed on January the 4th, 2018. You can find this on YouTube. The link will be in the description box below. There's a typical alt-right debate, which lasts for about 4 hours and 38 minutes. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you where to go. The incident in which we see evidence number 2 starts at about the 3 hour, 8 minute, and 30-second mark. Try going around that area, and for the next 30 seconds, when you see Richard Spencer on the camera, you notice another individual covering herself while he is doing his stream. We don't get a clear picture of this individual until about the 3 hour, 8 minute, and 40-second mark. If you go around that time, especially around the 47th second mark, which I'll have the picture above, you see an individual here who is definitely not trying to be revealed in the camera. Some individuals will refer to this person as being the ex-wife of Richard Spencer. By the way, the ex-wife was a Russian chick, I believe. However, if you look at this individual here, a lot of other people will state that she doesn't have the phenotype of an individual who would be approved by the alt-righters, ethno-nationalists, etc. at all. Some individuals have even stated that this chick is not only the mistress of Richard Spencer, but that this chick is an African American woman, is an ADOS woman, is a sister, as some in the community would call her. Now, given this shout of evidence right here, how can a lot of individuals state that this guy right here is completely down with the movement? Yes, this could be his wife, or this could be a mistress who is of the white race but just has black hair or dark brunette, dark brown hair, and is just doing a damn good job at covering herself up. I get it. As a matter of fact, there is actually a picture out there of Richard Spencer's ex-wife with a dress that is the same color as what this female is holding. So I'm not sure if that's the ex-wife of Richard Spencer just trying to conceal herself for obvious reasons, or the mistress of Richard Spencer covering herself with his wife or ex-wife's dress. Who knows? But if you really look, this does raise a lot of good questions. I'm not sure if this was a lapse in judgment for Mr. Spencer, but we'll let the audience be the judge and jury of this. The third fact I like to bring up, and this is probably going to be the most controversial fact, so controversial that we won't even get into the entire web of this. Now let's give a brief summary of Richard Spencer's career, in which in January 2011 he became executive director of Washington Summit Publishers, a white nationalist publishing company. The year after, he founded Radix Journal as a biannual publication of Washington Summit Publishers. Contributors have included such and such, other alt-writers, and also hosts a weekly podcast. In 2011, he also became president and director of the National Policy Institute. I want you to remember that. A think tank previously based in Virginia and Montana. George Halley, an assistant professor of political science at the University of Alabama, has described MPI as rather obscure and marginalized until Spencer became its president. Now, MPI, which is a white supremacist think tank and lobby group, was founded in 2005 by William Regurney II. Now, recall the name William Regurney II. He is an American heir to $1 million fortune, political activist, and donor. And a lot of you want to really take some good, juicy information. Look into his father, William H. Regurney, who was a businessman and manufacturer in the United States. Now, this is the surface information that the mainstream media tells you. However, if you look at William Regurney II and Henry Regurney, who is William H. Regurney Sr., these guys are linked to Regurney Publishing and the American Security Council. For all of you who want to go into deeper research for that, do as you will. I am not going to speak anymore on this, but if you really want to go into the rabbit hole and open Pandora's Cube, I more than welcome you to do so. Hell, if you even want to tell me about the findings in the comments section, I welcome you to do so. But where does this leave the alt-right? You're having the guy who's going around here becoming a borderline parody of the alt-right. Heck, he doesn't even have the masculinity of the old right. I mean, the old neo-Nazis who would just not give a damn. I mean, those in the old right, were basically your biker guys who look like they could fit into the episode of Sons of Anarchy. But you have this suit and tie alt-righter who has made it so that, in my personal opinion, he is the poster child of exposing a lot of the suit and tie covert racists that we have among our ranks in this country. As far as the ultimate goal of this, whether it's to further the leftists to gain power or to maintain power, or whether it's a genuine sort of psyop in order to rid the country of white supremacy and have this nation transition from an ethno-nationalist state to a civic nationalist one, well, that remains to be seen. But at this point, from what I've seen, I'll tell you this. Richard Spencer is as alt-right as I am pro-black. And everyone else out there, always bet on X.